Okay, so today we're going to be talking about some ILS trends. I am joined by my two colleagues, Matt Livingstone, sitting to my far left, my other colleague, Josh Lipton. Matt Livingstone is my counterpart at Rentsync. He is also Director of Sales and Business Development, comes with almost a decade of multifamily experience in digital marketing. And Josh here is a man behind the scenes. He's on the Rentals.ca side, VP of Operations, as I mentioned. He's kind of the guy. I don't like to call him the guy, but all things Rentals.ca goes to him. So really happy to have you both joining us today.
Thanks, Wes.
Thanks, Wes.
So we're going to dive into a bit of a 360 view of the ILS landscape. We're going to kind of look at the past, the present, and the future, looking at current situations, of course. So we have three primary topics. You'll probably see them on the board above me. But I'd like to jump into the first one, which is the background and current ILS situation. Josh, I'll let you kick this off. You're the ILS guy. Can you explain some of the history of ILSs and how they've evolved?
Yeah, for sure. So, really, when we look at online rental demand trends, if we're zooming out a little, some important key points were when we kind of went mobile first. Currently, about 75% of all traffic to your websites or people looking online is going to be mobile. That was a big trend. Another funny one was when Trump won his first term, we saw a huge spike in traffic from the US. And then it kind of peaked around COVID. And since then, we've actually seen in Ontario a drop in online demand. And much of that is because as rental prices have gone up, we've mentioned this throughout the chat today, some people have said it, turnover's gone down, people say, you know what, it's rent controlled, I'm going to stay here. And so because of that, we have seen fewer and fewer people looking, and that demand has really continued to decrease over the last few years.
Well, obviously there's a lot of listing sites out there, a lot of variety in marketplace, like classifieds. Can you explain some of the trends you've seen over the last few years?
Yeah, for sure. So the biggest trend we're seeing within the actual demand, so again, demand is down year over year, but within that year, we have seen actually listing sites such as the Rentals.ca Infinity Network actually gain traffic, which means it's got to be coming from somewhere. And the number one culprit of where users are losing traffic is, we call them key classified sites. There's a couple of them, I'm sure you know them, but they've really lost a lot of steam and a lot of traffic over the last few years for a variety of reasons.
Matt, have you seen this at all? I mean, you have a number of clients. Do you have any context you'd like to add on that?
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to things like classified sites, there's maybe one obvious factor and maybe a couple less obvious ones. The obvious one is performance. The leads are just not being generated at the same rate that maybe they were in the past. And when it's a tight market, a tight rental market, when leads are very precious and hard to come by, the marketing budget is going to be under scrutiny. And you can't justify something that's not performing just because it's something we've always used, right? That doesn't really take you very far these days. One maybe less obvious factor is a lot of the new developments that you guys are all bringing to market are Class A luxury assets. And it caters to a more affluent, more sophisticated renter that tend to choose these more modern sites that are more conducive to their searches. And there is kind of a reluctance to have this high-end luxury building next to someone selling a used mattress or buying skis. It's just it's not a good brand association to have in some cases, and it's something that people are kind of bypassing in their marketing strategy. So those are kind of the main factors that I'm seeing. The other thing is when you go to a site like Marketplace or some of the classified sites, it's a different kind of interaction that you have. I'm sure you all have put something on Facebook Marketplace in the past. Pretty much guarantee the first couple of responses you get are, you're selling something for $100, someone says, oh, will you take 75? We're not really hopefully we're not in the business of negotiating rental prices at that level. So we just want to protect your leasing team's time, bring them quality leads through appropriate channels.
One other thing I'll add to that is also just, again, these classified sites are designed for broad use cases, so mattresses as well as rentals. And because of that, they don't really build the tools that a dedicated listing site can build. So they don't really have as many property-specific features, whether it's support of 3D tours or online booking or map searches. And so it's just not as good a user experience, and users are looking to make this rental process as easy as possible. Renters really do want to have an easy time, and that's a better experience on the listing sites.
All great points. And definitely in terms of like listing sites, like that specificity is really important, not being distracted by other sort of products like used mattresses as an example. But we've been focusing a lot on kind of the landlord side. What are some less specific things or less obvious things on maybe the renter side? Like, is there anything else that you're focusing on?
Yeah, big one on the Rentals.ca Infinity network that we're working on is security and safety. As rental prices have gone up, there's been a huge increase in the number of scams online because scammers can make more money now from it. And there are people, unfortunately, that are desperate for places at the lower end of the rental scale. And so because of that, we have seen a big rise in the market in rental scams. And classified sites don't really have any protections to stop anyone from posting anything, any listing. There's no verification. So we started last year investing in a verification system to really ensure that the listings that we are getting are vetted. And when we don't have vetting, we do call that out. And so if you do have a vetted listing, such as through Rentsync syndication, then you will have it notified as a verified listing. There's other ways to verify as well for smaller mom and pop landlords, but we really do take the safety and security of renters very seriously, and I think that we're being rewarded for it with additional traffic.
Yeah, super important for the renter as well.
Yeah, I sit with Josh in our office, and he's not going to toot his own horn, so I'll toot it for him. Just seeing the passion that the security and the trustworthiness of those sites, how important that is to him. It's very visible, and there's a commitment to it, and we're benefiting from it.
Thanks, bud.
Welcome, buddy.
Okay, let's shift topics just a little bit here. Looking at current ILS trends, it's been a lot going on. What are some major impacts that you're seeing?
Yeah, so when we're looking at Ontario and even Toronto, the big changes have been, obviously in the last few years, rent rates were up, and that led to fewer people wanting to move because of rent control. And when you have a sweetheart deal, I think Max mentioned this much earlier, that while the rental rates, market rates are up a lot, the actual overall rent that most people are paying isn't up that much, and it's cost controlled, unlike everything else in their life. So turnover was way down, and that led to a huge drop in demand, online demand, renters looking to move. I will note that this data here is from the first 3 quarters of the year. We actually have seen of late this data start to reverse somewhat. Our rent report, the Rentals.ca rent report, actually called out in the last few months, we actually have seen year-over-year decreases in rent. This is starting to lead to an increase in demand, actually. So we are seeing that shift, but it is slow. I do think this trend will play out. But again, over the full year, we have seen a really big drop in demand, but I do think this is starting to swing back the other way. The other big thing, again, demand is down online, and yet when we look at the leads that we're actually generating from the Rentals.ca Infinity network, they are down year over year, but much less than the demand, which actually signals that we're growing share. We spoke about this before, about how we're, listing sites are gaining share and classified sites are losing it. The Rentals.ca Infinity network especially is really gaining market share, and I think it's really resonating with renters, the product that we're offering. And when we actually look at individual sites, so listing sites, classified sites, and we look at the market share, the organic market share, see that actually the Rentals.ca Infinity network does have a 44% share of organic search, which is substantial, and it shows the strength of the Infinity network and our consolidated efforts.
So the network seems to be performing well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. Matt, can you tell us a little bit about maybe why we decided to consolidate?
Yeah, for sure. So like the whole topic of consolidation is not new to other industries. Like you'll see with like travel, like the Expedia group, they own a network of sites and they cast a wide net. Same with Marriott Hotel Group and even with dating sites as well. Some of these are very specialized, but it allows you to kind of cast a wide net, as I mentioned. We're kind of no different in the rental industry. We own and operate a number of different listing sites, some of which are regionally specific. Some of them cater to different types of properties, but we wanted to consolidate that into one kind of unified product under the Rentals.ca Infinity network banner. there's business reasons for it, right? There's shared resources in terms of marketing and development and that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, we wanted to provide an enterprise-level solution for our power users of our advertising products, which is you guys in this room. It's come up a couple times today, the influx of kind of the private landlord, the condo units that are being rented under market. And they're getting leads and getting traffic directly at your expense because they have the tolerance to rent it under market. So we wanted to create this product have enterprise-level tools, enterprise-level visibility that differentiates your listings from that of the smaller mom and pops, the individual condo units. Me renting out my basement, Josh renting out a condo, and that was the kind of the goal, and we're definitely seeing that goal being realized.
Awesome, and it was a good goal. I mean, it's become, a kind of a household name in terms of our clients. But you've explained
for better or for worse.
Exactly. So you've explained some of the reasons behind consolidation. We've kind of breezed through it. I'm curious to know about performance. Josh, can you share that with us?
For sure. And I'm happy you also said it's becoming a brand name because I'll also touch on that. But yeah, when we actually look at clients that upgraded from all standalone sites to the Infinity Network, those clients actually saw a 44% increase in their leads per property, which is a very big jump. And I will say that's if you were already on all of our standalone listing sites. Less than a third of all properties are actually on all of them. The average user is only about 2.5. The average property is only on about 2.5 listing sites, which means that you'd actually see an even bigger increase than the 44% listed here. And on top of that, that's just for standalone. We obviously are seeing some additional purpose-built rentals come under construction and lease up, and so those need even more leads. And so for the promotion, because we have these enterprise-level products that are specific for them, we're seeing even bigger gains there in that clients that switch over to a promoted product on the Infinity Network are seeing a 298% increase versus if they were on standalone promotion. So really big leads, and that's really been the growth of the product. There's a ton of clients onboarding, and they've been extremely happy. Also, speaking of brand name, we actually do track unaided brand awareness, which is kind of the gold standard for brand awareness. Just so you know what that is, we basically run a survey every month where we ask about 500 renters, when you think of a website or service for finding rental properties, which ones come to mind? We do not prompt them, we just ask them. This is not on Rentals.ca, we ask them off-site. There's no association with Rentals.ca, they don't know who's asking it. And 26% of users come up with the Rentals.ca Infinity Network sites as their answer, which is significantly higher than any other brand. The next closest is about 5%. I also will say that we have unaided brand awareness. That's where we do prompt them. Hey, here's a list of 20 different brands. Which have you heard of? There, it's about 74%. So that means 3/4 of renters know the brand Rentals.ca and the Infinity Network and the other sites. So combined, these are some key reasons why the network is getting so much traffic and so many users and so many leads for our clients.
Oh, that's fantastic, especially with the brand awareness. Our clients are utilizing listing sites every day, always looking for key strategies. Matt, you speak to clients daily. Can you talk a little bit about how to effectively leverage ILSs, maybe some strategy?
Yeah, for sure. So rental listing sites, you know them, you love them. Hopefully you love them or else you're at the wrong user conference. But as Ali kind of mentioned earlier, the goal of maybe being organically at top of Google is not realistic. There's sites that have far more kind of SEO value that are going to show up among the first organic search terms for pretty much any high volume rental search that you can make. So odds are that if someone types in their keywords, they're going to first end up at an ILS, and that's really the marketplace of where you're shopping around. That's where you clarify your rental search. That's where you find out what is actually realistic in terms of affordability, proximity to certain locations, and then the options that are available to you. They're really shopping around. So putting your best foot forward on these sites, having high visibility on them, having the best marketing assets you can, virtual tours, high quality visuals, is really important to kind of showcase your brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Ali touched on it earlier in terms of like different strategies and in terms of digital and utilizing like Google Ads and things like that. We often see a lot of our clients investing a ton into digital marketing and really not achieving linear results, what would you say to a client experiencing that?
Yeah, Wes, this is something that like you and I deal with quite
Daily.
often. I'd say it's probably our most frequently asked question or most frequent discussion we're having with our clients these days. And you'll have to indulge my crude slide here. You can tell I'm a salesperson and not a graphic designer. This represents kind of the peak of my ability, so just please indulge me here. So I've got a little analogy here. You've all seen kind of a sign spinner at the corner of an intersection trying to drive traffic to maybe a pizza spot or a car wash, and it can be effective. So kind of gone through a couple scenarios here. So number one, you've hired a guy, you pay him $150, and you end up generating $800 in revenue. So you're making a tidy profit there. That's great. So you're like, oh, that's an awesome investment, great return. Let's double down. So we've hired 2 sign spinners. We've doubled our investment. You'd think that we should double our return, but it doesn't necessarily work like that. Each additional dollar you put in sometimes will then have slightly diminishing returns. So you're still making a ton more profit. You're making $1,600 with your 2 sign spinners, but it's not as easy as a linear doubling. So still good business. So you're going to triple down on it. We're going to get 3 sign spinners. We're going to triple our investment, and our profit still goes up. Our revenue still goes up. So it still is a good thing to do. You're not going up as aggressively as you are previously, but you're still making more money, which is the end goal. So you've decided, we are a sign spinning company. This is our marketing strategy. So we've got 1 on every corner. We've got 4, and we found that while our revenue actually goes up, our profit goes down due to our increased investment. So now we're kind of hitting a point of negative returns, where you're not making any more profit the more you've kind of invested into it. So it's definitely something that we see kind of be applicable to the ILS world. When it comes to promoted listings, someone can talk about their cost per lead all day, really. Oh, our cost per lead is so effective right now, but maybe you're not getting enough leads to address your vacancy. So no, you should use some of the promoted listings available to you. You can see there's a couple different options that we've got on the Infinity Network package. And with some of these upgrades, your cost per lead will go up, likely will. And that's a good thing if you're getting more leads, right? It's if like you shouldn't be trying to run a very lean cost per lead if you're not getting enough leads to satisfy your business goals. So it's almost like if your car gets 60 miles per gallon, but it can't get you where you need to be. How important is that, right? So it's something to watch, and someone's like, oh, I've invested in an upgraded ad. I should get quadruple 6 times the leads. Not necessarily as simple as that. There's nuance to it. All kind of advertising hits these type of trends and these performance. So with like ILS advertising and other forms of digital marketing, they all kind of hit these points of like diminishing and negative returns at different rates. So it's important to kind of monitor those trends and deem kind of when it's acceptable to do so and when it's not. I think quickly an example of when it would be acceptable to have something like that is when you've got a real need for brand awareness, where you're launching a new luxury building, you want this brand to be kind of a household name, you want to build interest and generate buzz. Obviously, you're not going to expect people to sign leases because you've got a lovely logo a year in advance. But that is still an acceptable form of diminishing returns advertising. And one area where that's probably not acceptable is if you've got kind of a very niche audience, right, where you've hit everyone you can with a certain ad spend. Spending more money isn't going to reach more people. So you gotta kind of focus on that. Same with your promoted listings. If you're in a market where, let's say, one upgrade would do just fine, it would get you to the top of the list or among the top 5, you wouldn't need to triple or quadruple down on that form of advertising if it's not going to reach a new or fresh audience.
One final thing, I think you said it to me in a chat the other day, and I thought you said it so well, is the goal is not to maximize cost per lead, efficiency, it's to maximize leads efficiently. So you do want to maximize the number of leads in an efficient way, but you're not going, wow, I got 1 lead and it cost me $1. That's not useful. You want to really get a lot of leads, and it might be a little less efficient than fewer leads, but it's still the best option. So you said it so succinctly there.
Awesome. Yeah, it's finding the balance, right? I'm just going to kind of hum along here and kind of turn a corner a little bit, if you don't mind, by pivoting. Looking forward now into the future of listing sites. Josh, we will start with you because you're the listing site guy, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Where do you see ILS is going? What is the future?
I'm glad you asked, Wesley. Yeah, so we're really excited that we're actually going to start doing the future of listing sites is more granular data. We think. We've spoken a lot about data, and I think more data empowers marketers to make better decisions. And so one piece of data that we think really has been missing from the equation has been impression data at the property level and at city level. So historically, very early marketers were sold just impressions, and then the better version of that was leads. So then we kind of got trained to ignore impressions and focus on leads. But really, you want to look at both. You want to look at both leads and impressions because they help create a better picture of the price value proposition that your property is signaling to the market. So what I mean by that is when you look at impressions and when you look at leads, you're able to understand your conversion rate. And the reason this is important is, again, what conversion rate is good for your property. And without knowing impressions, you can't understand whether you have a good or a bad impression rate, conversion rate. So when we look at this, I'm going to look at two different properties here, two different two-bedroom properties in Toronto. So one has a 4% conversion rate, one has a 7% conversion rate. What's better? I don't know if 7's better, but is it a good trade-off to get a higher conversion rate, but you are getting significantly less rent for that unit? And so this is by seeing the information in the data, you are better able to make pricing strategies and also say how renters see the price value you offer. Is your conversion rate lower because the price is too high? Is it because the location's maybe not as good? Maybe the amenities aren't as strong. So this really can help you compare different listings, different units, either within a property, within a city, and help you make better decisions and understand truly what the price value proposition is and how users see it. Now, I will say, it's not as easy as just saying 7 is better than 4, like I said. There are other factors also to keep in mind. So one that I found that was interesting was city is also very important. So the more densely populated a city, or even a region, the lower the conversion rate. And really, when you think about it, if you are in downtown Toronto, there's 1,000 condos and apartments that are all fairly similar, and so it's easier to compare. And so if I don't like this one, I can go find another one. If you go somewhere either to a product that's a little different, a 3-bedroom apartment, or even in a city with fewer options, the conversion rates are higher because there's just fewer alternatives that a renter might be looking at. So you do need to keep these factors in mind when looking at conversion rates. So one property in downtown Toronto gets 4%, one in London gets 5%, doesn't necessarily mean that that's a stronger price value proposition. Maybe you can actually increase the price of the Toronto one and still get great value. But it can help you also determine what level of promotion you need to put on your property, whether you need more leads or not. So, yeah.
And regarding that, I understand you have a bit of a surprise for us today.
We do. I actually think you have a surprise to announce.
Oh, well, impression data is now live, really, which is fantastic. So our clients will be able to utilize this right away if you're on the bundle. So it's really exciting. It's a big change for us. So thank you, Josh, for kind of going through impression data. It's going to be extremely useful in terms of benchmarking performance.
I wanted this to be like Oprah Winfrey, where everyone had a copy of their impression data under their chairs, but got nixed at the last second.
Impressions for you.
Yeah, and I think it's a really monumental shift for marketers, but also for Rentsync. Like for as long as we've been here, it's always been about which sites are generating your leads. But when you look at the Rentals.ca Infinity Network as a single source advertising channel, telling you where they came from doesn't ultimately give you much, right? It doesn't tell you the whole story. So showing how it performs is definitely far more impactful and more useful as a marketer. I think what Josh mentioned, I just want to kind of echo that. Being able to choose what promotion to go to, if you need to increase your visibility based on a lack of impressions in general, you can do that. You can gain more visibility. If you're finding your visibility and your impressions still super high, but no one's converting, maybe that needs you to look inward in terms of pricing, look inwards in terms of content. Maybe there's an image that's not resonating. It gives you way more ability to A/B test things and just kind of either gut check your strategy or fine tune it.
Yeah. Well said. Far more insight for sure. It seems just in terms of the network, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but there's a lot of technology that we're putting into it.
Sure.
What is, the desire for Rentals.ca and the network to go down funnel?
Yeah, I think, as you said, down funnel, when we zoom out and we look at Rentsync as a whole, we merged with Building Stack because that helps enable this grand vision of going down funnel.
Yeah.
And considering I'm more listing site focused, when I look at it, I would like to go as far down funnel on the listing sites as we can, because I think it improves the user experience. Obviously, we want to enable, credit checks and lease signing, as easily as possible. But to me, there's always a gap and a delay in time. The more you can get them right on the site, the less churn, the less you're going to lose users in that funnel. Yeah. And so we're going to try and layer in these services into the listing sites, and just I think will really enhance the value of the listing sites and what users can do on there. Yeah, and I think there's actually a really interesting talk later today with some Building Stack people that also talk about some really interesting ones about reimagining the lease up and how we're kind of going lead to lease and it's all kind of becoming one. So I'm really excited about the future there.
No, that's fantastic. And are there specific features you're looking towards adding, or?
Yeah, so on top of that, there's a couple other ones that I think are going to be really interesting, and one of those is lead quality scoring. We already have a lead quality scoring functionality for those on the Rentals Infinity network, but we want to improve it. And we have more data now, and we are implementing more data and utilizing some new technologies. I hate using the word AI, but a little bit of AI to try to...
You're leveraging AI?
Yeah. Actually, this might be the first mention of it today at the... Who had it on their bingo card? Okay. To try to better understand which prospects are going to be the most likely to convert and focus the most time on. And so we're really layering in new data, new features to really enhance the ability for us to label users as quality leads. So I'm really excited about that. And I really think, again, it's about enhancing the lead portion for marketers.
Yeah, it's definitely great to have the insight on like what's a hot lead versus maybe not so hot lead. I mean, being in sales, if you feel the same way, if I see a lead come in and it's very tailored to kind of what I specialize in, and it seems like they're very interested, very engaged, going to want to jump on that immediately. This is the same. Matt, we talk about this all the time, obviously from a holistic standpoint, working with our clients, but there are some other features that are coming to the market. What are you most excited about?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been in the industry like nearly a decade now, and when I first started out, kind of the gold standard for a lead was a phone call. If someone called you, that was as good as gold. And so being able to nurture that phone call and book them tours to come and then hopefully show up and then hopefully apply and do that was the measure of success. But now I'd say the benchmark is kind of the tour. So if you can lower the barrier of entry for someone to book a tour, make it as easy as possible. You get that chance at conversion right at the point of listing, which is the top of funnel, right? So you see a book now button on Rentals.ca. Someone can then book a tour directly from the listing. If they go to your website and see all the lovely content, that's great. But we want to give people the ability to book and explore however they choose, which is many different ways. So having tour booking directly on the listing is something we're pretty pumped about and seeing great results.
And if I can just add one little thing on that, the cool thing about the tour booking as well is the pre-qualification aspect, right? Custom forms, being able to ask what you want as they go through, but certainly the transaction and getting them there is going to be super important.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is probably the thing that I'm most excited about. So I'm sure many of you are familiar, some of you definitely have these, is the Floor Plan Navigator tool. So this is something we came up with that Ali mentioned earlier. It's kind of the new default when it comes to showcasing purpose-built rental new builds, right? It gives you a far more engaging renter experience. It's really useful as an asset management tool because you can see some of those metrics. But the position that we're in as kind of the developer of the tool and the owner of the listing site allows us to leverage both of those. So we are actually able to showcase the Floor Plan Navigator tool directly on the listing. So you get kind of more bang for your buck for your Floor Plan Navigator tool. You get it cast it to a wider audience, and you just get all that valuable insight as well in a different channel.
Yeah, awesome. It provides a lot of engagement as well. If bringing it to a listing site, you can just imagine how prospects can now interact with your property in a whole new way. So really exciting stuff, and certainly we'll see a lot of engagement, high quality leads coming from that. Kind of short on time. Actually, we're probably running a little bit over, but just wanted to, say, covered a lot of product stuff. All great product things aside. Josh also heads our marketing team at Rentals.ca. What's been going on that side? We're in a room full of marketers. Tell us what we've been doing there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's great to enhance the product, and I do think that makes Rentals.ca and our other sites stickier, and users want to come back. But if users don't know about us, they're not going to find us in the first place. Yeah. So we've been investing a lot into both SEO, but also brand. And so we have our brand ambassador here, Jack.
Hello.
And hello. And his iconic hello. And we've really been pushing both brand and as much as possible. So we're leveraging billboards, connected TV, social media, display ads, and we're averaging currently about 10 million brand impressions a month, and that's actually increasing over time. As well as that, we have a media team. Max had mentioned that, and our media team has close relationships with journalists, and when they're looking for a story when it comes to real estate, because Rentals.ca provides the best data and has the most knowledge, they're able to source us the most. So we're also mentioned a lot in Global, CTV, CBC, many different publications. So we also average about 11 million monthly media impressions. Those also include our lovely Giacomo Lattis, who's on TV sometimes, or podcasts. So, and we actually have an 87% market share of the media. So this is a strategy we're really leaning into. So there's a number of things, but at the end of the day, the product kind of is marketing. So we really want to double down and reinvest in marketing so that our clients get the most leads possible.
Fantastic. Yeah, wanting to become a household name, as I said earlier.
Well said.
In the spirit of Giacomo Lattis, I will, mention your Reese's Pieces socks. I think those are fantastic.
Thank you.
Always good for a fun sock. But that's us for time, so thank you very much. We're not going to do Q&A right now just because we're a little short. We're going to jump into the next session.
I'm not that short.
What's that? But please email us if you have any questions at all, or come and find us. We'll all be around. But let's give a round of applause to Matt and Josh.
And for the lovely Wes.